particular period that Saint and Greavesy started on ITV. And there was a segment on there where they took out this young, good-looking blonde fella with a Scottish accent across they took him around London, asking people, do you know who he is? Nobody knew. One person recognised him, a cab driver. It's Frank McAvenny. Frank McAvenny scored 28 goals that season. Most of those goals are lost because they weren't recorded by anyone.
West Ham were a sensation that season. And also at the start of the season, and this I think shows the difference between then and now, were United. Ron Atkinson's United were brilliant. But what happened with Ron Atkinson's United is it's a lovely little team built for nice pitches. So the pitches August, September, brilliant. Once they become the mud heaps that they became, then things become much more difficult for United. And you contrast that with the carpets that the players of today have, and that United side I think would be they almost certainly would have gone on to be champions, but they just couldn't cope ploughing through the mud.
And he wanted to try and sign Gary Lineker for £800,000, and they wouldn't allow him to bring Lineker in because Frank Stapleton needed moving on. Frank didn't want to leave. They ended up signing Terry Gibson and Peter Davenport for more money than they could have signed Lineker for during that season. And once injuries, of course, Brian Robson was the big one. Every time Brian Robson got injured for Manchester United, their seasons collapsed. It happened 2 years earlier when they could have won the European Cup Winners' Cup, and he got injured on the eve of the semi-final against Juventus. Their season collapsed. Happened this season in 85-86. He got injured, ankle, ligaments, hamstring, and the big one, which cost him effectively a clear run at the World Cup, which was his dislocated shoulder. And United never recovered from that. And I don't think Ron Atkinson really recovered from that. And within months of that season ending, he'd gone, he'd been sacked.
I wonder if it should have been.
Oh, well, yeah. And it took him a while, by the way. I mean, all this talk now of Ruben Amorim and him being given more years. Well, actually, they did that with Ferguson and it worked out okay. But you're absolutely right that in 85-86, United effectively were leading a one-horse race. They won the first 10 games and blew it.
I wonder how West Ham fans think about this, because this is the only season in years and years and years that they had a real championship challenge. It just fell away a little bit towards the end. But, McAvenny and Cottee were great together. And if you weren't in an Upton Park, you didn't see it. It must be, because at least the fans of the other big clubs, they had other seasons. But West Ham had that season.
Well, West Ham, what really cost them, they actually had a really poor start. And then in January, they didn't play for ages. They barely played because of what was quite a harsh winter. And the Upton Park pitch didn't have heaters. It didn't have undersoil heating. So they caught everyone up. And in the final weekend, they could have won the league. It was between them, Everton and Liverpool. But of course, Liverpool knew how to win trophies. If there was one thing guaranteed, Liverpool weren't going to allow a lead at the top of the table. They weren't going to let that slip. And sadly, West Ham finished third. They probably would have been worthy champions that year. It's just bad luck for them, really.
I don't remember a great deal about that. It is remarkable that Liverpool won in the post, with all the post Heysel and all the rest of it. And when I look back, it's not a team that I really remember very well. I remember Everton of that era very, very well because, for 3 or 4 years, they had a fantastic side. But I don't remember that it was Dalglish's first season, I think, wasn't it, as a manager. I don't really remember that Liverpool side.
Well, it's the audacity of replacing your retired manager with a footballer, a player manager who was 34. And I think it's a story that isn't probably cherished enough. The fact that Dalglish came in against the backdrop of Heysel and managed to win the league and cup, which is the only time they've done it, the FA Cup and league in the same year. And he did it with a team that Alan Hansen, during that season, told him was the worst Liverpool team he'd ever played in. Now, that's not the worst prediction Hansen would ever make that he got wrong, but it was the start of a few that he did get wrong. And, to their credit, in that final leg, like a thoroughbred team that they were. They came through and made sure they crossed every fence, hurdled every fence with perfection. And that great Everton team, like you say, were just on there. They were leading for so long, and in the end, inevitably, and there's a great story from Graeme Sharp in the book where the two teams obviously vying for the league and cup, and somebody in their wisdom within Merseyside decides they're going to give them a joint bus tour in the hope that one wins the league and one wins the cup. So what happens? Liverpool win both, and the Everton players are having to travel back from Wembley on a plane with Liverpool fans, Liverpool players celebrating, and then they're told they're going to have to jump on a bus and go around the city. Well, Peter Reid said, "Sod that," and it needed his mom to go to the Liverpool Echo and defend him. And Graeme Sharp did get on, and he said they sat downstairs drinking beer. Of course, what happens after a few beers on a slow-moving bus? You need the toilet. So Graeme Sharp got off the bus, sprinted into somebody's house, knocked on the door. "Can I use your toilet?" Woman said, "Up you go, love. It's up there." He came back down to be greeted by the woman's husband, a Liverpool fan, who swiftly told him to clear off straight out of his house. Graeme Sharp walked out, got back on the bus, and carried on driving around Liverpool with the rest of them. But what a thing to do! What a thing to expose those Everton players to!